Hey, I'm Gayla. After 20 years of climbing the corporate ladder, I took the leap and started my own business to pursue my dream of creating a work-from-anywhere lifestyle. Having the freedom to work from practically anywhere is such a cool feeling. You're in the right place if you're looking for ideas and inspiration to start and grow your own online business. Every week in this podcast, you'll receive practical ideas, hints, tips, and tricks to help you grow your online business where you can leverage your time and you can accomplish more. You too can experience wonderful adventure and freedom as you live life on your own terms. Hi there, and welcome to the Gayla Scrivener Show. I am so glad you're here because today you're in for a real treat because I've got Dr. Michelle Deering on the show today. In honor of Mother's Day, you see, Dr. Deering is a mother-daughter relationship personal trainer. She equips mothers and daughters with tailored tools and strategies so that they can connect more intentionally and improve relationally with each other. And I thought it was a perfect timing since May is Mother's Day. So even if you're not a mother, this is a great show. I loved the interview that I had with Dr. Deering because we not only spoke about mother-daughter relationships, but we also spoke about her journey of being a small business owner. In 2018, Dr. Deering's book, What Mothers Never Tell Their Daughters, 5 Keys to Building Trust, Restoring Connection, and Strengthening Relationships, it debuted in the top 5 of Amazon's new releases and garnered the prestigious Author Academy Award nomination in general fiction and became a bestseller. I'm so honored that she'd want to be on my show. This is so great. Now, Dr. Deering is also a North Carolina and New Jersey state licensed clinical psychologist and board certified sports psychologist. She has guest blogged for Parent Magazine, is a contributing author for Therapy Brands, and has been a featured guest on numerous podcasts, radio shows, and online magazines. A graduate of Brown University, Dr. Deering is the founder and CEO of Curative Connections, a consulting company offering mother-daughter relationship consultation and motivational keynote speaking services. Michelle and her husband, Scott, compete in Reebok Spartan obstacle course races. She is also a drummer and curler. Married for 27 years, Michelle and Scott are the parents of young adult twin daughters. Wow. Well, without further ado, let's dive right into the interview. Hello, Dr. Deering. I am so glad you're here with me today.
I'm so happy to be here with you, Gayla.
I first wanted to ask for you just to tell my listeners a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am a mom of twin daughters. I've been married for about 28 years this year, and I'm a mother-daughter relationship personal trainer, is what I do for a living through my company, Curative Connections. I'm also licensed as a clinical psychologist and board certified as a sports psychologist, but my heart is to be of help to moms in raising their children, and in particular, their daughters.
What got you into this? Why are you passionate about this?
My passion actually started out of a moment of frustration when my daughters were in middle school, and I was having, every mom has that hair pulling moment where it's like, I'm just trying to get something across to them, but they're not getting it. And I said to my husband, they just don't understand what I can't tell them right now because they weren't old enough. That just kind of percolated there, and I ended up wanting to somehow leave a legacy of something in writing because I like to write, and that led me to start percolating with the idea of, okay, well, maybe I'll write a book. But then we moved to a neighborhood that had a cul-de-sac that had young moms, younger than myself, who had kids that were around the ages of 5 to 10. And as I listened to them, knowing that they knew what I like to do or what I did for a living in terms of being a psychologist. And as they were talking to me, I would often listen to them, how they would refer to their daughters differently than they would refer to their sons. And every time I heard that, it was like my heart would just cringe. And it was like they said things and did things and interacted with their daughters in ways that I was sort of like, do you have any idea as to the effect you're having? But they didn't seem to understand. That's when my heart really started focusing on, okay, I really think that this would be the group that I really want to help, at least share things that I've learned being a mom over the last now 19 years, but then also what I've seen clinically in my office, where either moms or daughters who are hurting. And I've been doing this for over 15 years. And so I wanted to at least help in some way. So I pivoted my business to focus fully on that.
So you started out, your business was clinical psychology for a wider range
Yes.
and then now you're focusing on mother-daughter relationships.
Correct. Right. My training and background is in trauma, and so I, all sorts of trauma, and then I got additional certification as a sports psychologist because I'm an athlete, and so I was trying to find a way to combine both worlds. But then when we moved to North Carolina, and I mentioned the experience I had with the younger moms, that really got me switched to, okay, this is where I want to focus my efforts.
Well, first of all, being a mother of twin daughters, wow, that's like a badge of courage.
Yes.
I just had one to contend with and two at the same time, same age. And
Yes.
that middle, you said they were kind of in middle school when you had this moment, not to get personal, but what was it? Was it something that you wish they understood, but they were just too young to understand, or something that you could not reveal as a parent?
Yeah, in that particular moment that I'm referring to, it was, I have this thing about just tidy up after yourself. And it was in the, people come inside the house and they just leave stuff and there's a trail.
Yeah.
And you trip over the trail. And so, not that I'm a soldier about it, but I got tired of, having the explosion of, will you just pick up the...
Oh, like you feel like you're a nag all
right,
the time. And you're the bad guy. And why, as a mom, do you have to be the bad guy? Yeah,
exactly. And so in the moment, because they were in middle school, and I knew that there was going to come a time where they were going to be at college, living with another person who was not a family member, because I was looking ahead, I kept thinking to myself, I know I'm sounding like a nag, but they don't get it. I could lecture to them all I want about, when you get to college, but it won't make any sense to them. And so it was that kind of in-between moment, whereas I wish I could just explain to them the headache that my nagging will save them later on. We as moms, we kind of see the future, and it's sort of like...
Yes. And then speaking to the young moms, I'm interested in, I've never raised a boy. So I just had one daughter, but I am interested in the differences. You mentioned the differences between mothers, relationship mothers and daughters, and mothers and sons.
Yes.
What did you see, and why did it startle you? Because I guess I don't get that.
Yeah, there's a developmental arc that a relationship between a mom and son undergoes that's different than what a relationship between a mother and a daughter undergoes. For a mother and son, the arc is, okay, you're nurturing, caring for him, and at some point, as your caregiver, his identity development is going to switch from, my mom's my primary caregiver, I need to identify with someone who looks like me, i.e. Either your spouse, husband, or another significant male in his life. That's what he'll gravitate towards and thus separate from mom. Whereas a daughter, her first encounter with a caregiver is with her mom. As her identity is developing, the mom is the first female that she's encountering, and thus she's learning about herself as a young girl eventually young lady, eventually young woman. Okay, she's learning about herself from her mom, but she's not her mom and has to actually develop an identity apart from her mom. And so that's what makes the whole transition from elementary to middle to high school to college really difficult,
Mm-hmm.
because there's this push pull that happens, and it's natural that it happens. But I think where I was getting pained in seeing the young moms in the cul-de-sac, where I was getting pained was that, they would say things that were sort of derogatory if their daughter would go off and do something that was not girlish or acceptable, and but yet they would say very accepting things about their sons who were going off doing the same thing, and they couldn't see the way in which that might be tearing down their young daughter's confidence and things of that nature. And that pained me, because my mom, she was a single mom doing the best she could in raising me, but she was also very critical of me about everything that I was doing. And so when I would hear the criticisms that these moms, again, I was probably projecting my
Mm-hmm.
stuff onto them, but I've had to learn over time how to improve upon that experience with my own daughters so that they don't experience that kind of stuff and can grow up to be confident young women, which they are right now as they've gone off to college. So,
Having help in the parenting field is super important because it all boils down to communication,
mm-hmm.
don't you think? And understanding.
Yes, I think that there's a lot of miscommunication because there's a lot of misunderstanding, and I think it's important for moms, regardless of what direction your life is taking or is in. It's important for moms to understand what's contributing to their misunderstandings. Which, and if anyone hangs around me long enough, my whole desire for moms is to find ways to pause, to consider how it is and what it is that you're doing, what you're doing.
Well, do you need to pause to consider because our growing children, our growing daughters, don't know how to express what they're thinking?
Yes, yes,
They do. I mean, even as an adult, sometimes I don't even understand my emotions.
yes, and that's the crucial role that I think moms play in the development of a child, and in particular of their daughter, is our attunement to what it is we're feeling is primary, because that's what we end up communicating to our daughters in terms of what they're feeling. We're the initial teachers of them. When a mom's holding a baby and a baby cries or a baby coos, that responsiveness that we have to them in those moments is teaching that child internally, oh, when I make X sound, that this is the response I get. Is it accepting? Is it not? Is it soothing? Is it not? They learn all of that, and then that informs whether or not they feel the world is safe apart from their mom, apart from their family. And so that when they get out there, then they're needing to navigate that and learn how to express themselves. And even one of the free things that I'll have for your listeners in terms
Mm-hmm.
of how to get her to talk, it's a free PDF with just some tips on finding ways to connect with your daughter so that you're, one, hearing her, and then two, finding ways and environments in which to engage her in a way where she feels like she has the audience with you.
Just a little while ago when you were introducing yourself,
Mhm.
you called yourself a
Mother-daughter relationship personal trainer.
personal trainer.
Yes.
Why is that different than clinical psychologist?
That's a good question. Well, the way I envision, how when folks look at someone who goes to the gym,
Mm-hmm.
okay, if you work out, you can there are two things a couple of things, but two main things you can actually do. You can go into the gym with a game plan. I'm going to work on X machine for X period of time, do these many reps, and then do that a certain way every single day on different body parts. You can go ahead and do that for yourself. Some people, most of the time, they just go in and they go on their favorite machine
Mm-hmm.
because that's what they like to do. It makes them feel good. But for the folks who actually, and not that you cannot make progress in the gym with that, but the folks who actually have a personal trainer is someone who comes alongside them to actually do an assessment to pinpoint what areas might need to be worked on. So there's more of the reason why I use the term personal trainer is because I want to come alongside moms and daughters to give them the guidance that they need for the different situations and scenarios that come up as their metaphorical body changes throughout the different seasons of life. And that's different from clinical psychology in a number of ways. One is if someone were to come into my office for clinical help, then come into my office or see me virtually because I do stuff online. It's geared more towards getting at underlying root things. And what I wanted to do as a business person was I wanted to, one, be able to reach more people across state lines ethically, because as a clinical psychologist, I can only practice in the states in which I'm licensed. But I didn't want to call myself a coach because that's something different for this kind of area. And I didn't want to call myself a consultant because that has a different ring to it.
That's businessy.
Right, businessy. But this is right, exactly, personal trainer, but specifically a relationship personal trainer for mothers and daughters to help them in their relationship. So that's how I see the difference.
I love that. When my daughter was, I want to say about 10 years old, that's when her dad and I divorced. And there was a period of time that each one of us went to a counselor during that really rough spot. I only went to a couple of counseling sessions. I don't know, it just didn't fit for me, but the counselor said, well, you're doing the right things. I mean, you're going to be sad, you're going to be angry, you go through those emotion type things. I love the concept of mother-daughter relationship personal trainer because having that support to be able to communicate with your daughter, and the daughter has a way of communicating back in a non-confrontational way and a stigma or a medical way, because it's just like, let's just talk, let's just get through this. And sometimes you do need a mediator.
Yes. And actually, not that I'm not great at my clinical stuff. My folks get better at whatever issues they're dealing with. But as you hit it on the head, in my development as a business owner, in starting Curative Connections, which is the name of my company, I really wanted folks, when they come either to my site or engage in my company, I want them to know that I don't have any airs. What you see is what you get. I'm right there with you in the thick of things, and that I'm all about connecting with you heart to heart, eye to eye, mano a mano kind of thing. I'm in there with you. So that's the other reason why I wanted to brand myself as a personal trainer, because I, as an athlete, have had personal trainers, and it makes such a difference in my progress. I've run 2 Spartan races already, cut my time down, things I wanted to accomplish, I was able to do that. And so I wanted to kind of use that model for the work I do. Yeah.
I love it. And you've been in business for yourself, did you say, for 15 years?
Well, I've been practicing in the mental health field for over 15 years, but my company, Curative Connections, was birthed in 2010. Actually, when I was in the beginnings of coming to a crossroad professionally, where I was in a company.
Yes.
I won't say what university, but I was in a Big Ten university working as the senior staff psychologist. And the way in which the treatment of students who would come in, it changed from being collegial to more clinical, and that was very impersonal. And that didn't jive with me and in the way I am as a person. And that's what I bring to the work that I do, is who I am. And so things got to a head where it started to take a toll on me physically, from exhaustion. I had to go to the hospital once, well, actually twice. The second time, when I was on the hospital bed, I had like a wake up moment where it was like, okay, if you keep doing this, you're not going to be with your family the way you want to be any longer. Or if you take this other road, then there's nothing but, happiness, joy, and whatever.
Right.
And so the choice was very easy for me at that point to say, okay, I'm going to opt to branch out on my own, construct my business and operate it in a way that resonates with me as a person. Because if I'm doing that and I'm staying true to my core, then everything else will blossom and follow afterwards. It's not to say that starting a business doesn't have its ups and downs, but when you know it's for yourself, what you put in is what you get out, and people that you can help more impactfully, that just, I'm so glad I did what I did when I did it. And actually, my husband, when I said to him, "Oh, hon, I'm going to resign," he looked at me and he laughed. He's like, "I've been waiting for you to come to that conclusion," because he'd been asking me to for 2 years prior, and I kept saying no.
Yeah,
And
why
so,
do we
yeah.
stay in misery for so long? I guess it's the uncertainty.
The uncertainty, and I think as women we sometimes have this need for security a certain way that's different for guys. They come at it differently, and for me I was sort of like, but how are we going to pay the
I
bill, da,
hear
da, da,
you.
da.
Yes.
And there's an old saying, do what you love and the money will follow. There's some truth to that, but I think even more than money following, it's the peace, the settledness, the fulfillment when you see what you're doing impacting the lives of other people. That to me is priceless. And that's the reason why I do what I do as a solopreneur, as they call it.
I think that's awesome. I similarly had a breaking point and then a push off the cliff. Actually, because there was a fork in the road, and then you
Hmm.
can, as I don't remember who said it, but if there's a fork in the road, take it. So
Yes.
there has to be this tipping point, because now you thought that running your own business, that's all the
Hmm.
happiness. Once you got in doing it, what kind of challenges did you encounter? Was it all rainbows and unicorns?
Oh gosh, no. No, not rainbows and unicorns. It was, I think the best way to describe it is it puts a mirror on who you really are. And for me, it really shined a light on what it was, areas that I needed to grow in. I'm naturally, even though my daughters would say, "Oh my God, mom, you're just talking to everybody that you meet on the street, blah, 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 blah."
Mhm.
I'm really kind of like a quiet person, and I don't like to brag or boast or talk about myself a
Right.
lot. So the whole idea of marketing, i.e., for me, seemed like a sales endeavor. And to me, I'm not a salesperson.
Mhm.
And so the challenge for me early on was to figure out how can I still be naturally me, which is my kind, considerate, thoughtful, compassionate self, and talk to people in a nice, kind, considerate, compassionate way about the nice, kind, considerate, passionate, compassionate things that I do
Mhm.
without being off putting like a lot of sales pitches can sound and be like. It took me a while when we were in New Jersey which is where I started my practice, to figure that out. And I ended up having what I call coffee times with people in the community. I would just, if you seem nice, hey, let's go have coffee. And we'd
Yes.
have coffee, and it took years for me to build a network of people that became familiar with me, and we would cross refer through different networking events. When we moved to North Carolina, it was different. Because one, it wasn't a city. That whole relationship building thing has taken a different form. And I think the times that have been trying have been when I enter into developing relationships just from relationship sake, because I like meeting new people.
Mhm.
But whenever I would get a sense that someone was just in it to get something out of me, that's been the hard part, is trying to find the fine line between, okay, who's really being real and who's really wanting to collaborate because we like each other.
Yeah.
Because business is built on relationships. You don't do business with inanimate objects. And for me, I want everything that I do to reflect that I care about people, from whom I align myself with, and vice versa. So,
I think that that's very important, genuine relationships,
mhm.
and not be salesy. And that is a challenge. And I think that, for me, that was hard to do, because I like to be behind the scenes. I'm the behind the scenes type person. And then to have to be in front of the scenes
Mhm.
to run a business. Be out like on this podcast or
Mhm.
out and about doing whatever on social. That just seems weird, but you find your niche. You try different things, and it's like it's all in, like with mother-daughter relationship. It's a lot of how you communicate, and we
Right.
have to grow in
Right.
communication.
It's just to, if I can piggyback off
Mhm.
that just a little bit. One, I just think that you're awesome.
Oh,
And, you know, and the impact you're having for business owners, small business owners is phenomenal. So just know that your steps to step out are having an impact. One of the things that I have also found difficult to do, and it's a new muscle that I'm learning how to do, is to try new things and not feel like it always has to be just right
mhm,
before you try them. And I equate that to mothering, because a lot of times we as moms can, and as women, can feel like we're being evaluated all the time. And
mm,
it's true, because the different images of what success looks like or what business ownership looks like, we're inadvertently trying to live up to that. And so the idea of trying something new or trying a new manner of interacting with your daughters that may seem uncomfortable may be the very thing that's needed, because then your daughter can see, oh, it's okay to not have to know everything or not have to do everything correctly, so quote unquote. So that's just another thing that I've been learning in this business travel transition.
I think that you're wonderful because when I first met you, and then I had seen that you wrote a book, What
Mhm.
Mothers Never Tell Their Daughters. And I was like, wow. I mean, there's so many books out there, and you had your pivotal moment to really hone in, and you already said that you love to write, and
Mhm.
and you were drawn to write this book. And that is part of your business,
Mhm.
of how folks can get to know you, your philosophies, and you're helping folks. It's a best-selling book.
Mhm.
Tell us a little bit about that book.
Well, this book was intended to, I could have written many volumes, but this book was intended to distill my over 15 years of clinical experience as a clinical psychologist, but then also my experience as a mom of twin daughters, to distill that down into pivotal lessons and 5 key areas that I think are important for moms to consider as they're parenting their daughters in particular. And so this book has 3 sections. The first section breaks things down into 3 main, what I call problem spots
Mhm.
that moms and daughters encounter. And then the second section of the book highlights the 5 different keys that are part of the framework in which I work with folks, 5 different keys to address as a mom so that it can help your relationship with your daughter improve. And then the third section of the book just talks about more practical how-tos and gives you some rewards if you go through the process and follow me through the book. And actually, the book is not a clinical book. It's what I'm dubbing it the Starbucks coffee chat kind of book. There are a lot of stories,
Uh-huh.
lots of prompter questions, lots of examples from not just my own life as a daughter raised by a single mom, but also as a mom of twin daughters, but then also as a clinician who's
Mhm.
worked with moms and daughters.
Awesome. You have a free chapter.
Yes, listeners, if you uh, type in the URL bit.ly/moms chapter 1, that will give you the first chapter free.
Awesome.
Yes,
I'll have the link in the show notes, definitely.
yes.
And as a busy professional, how did you find time to write the book? Really?
Oh
I
my
mean,
goodness.
what did you do to find the time? Because that is a big project.
Yes, it is actually. There were a couple of things at play. One, I knew that I had to finish it within a short period of time, only because I'm a person of faith, and so I really felt impressed. I had a year-long project, a year-long plan. I had to speed it up because I felt like the need was just out there for moms and daughters. Two, I gave myself a pay cut where for
Mhm.
that short period of time, I cut back my practice in half so that I would be able to
Focus.
just spend the focused time doing that. I mean, I changed things after the book was once out, but yeah, I became known as, thank God for my husband, I became known as the ghost mom for a period of time. And by ghost, not that I was absent, but that my girls would actually see me up late at night
Mhm.
typing, or with my office light on late at night or early in the morning
You
before everything
schedule
got
it.
started. Yeah, I
Right.
had to
Are
put
you
myself on a schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you committed to it. You had your
Yes.
own deadline, but what you said that resonates with me is that you made a sacrifice. You gave yourself a pay cut because you knew for a short amount of time you needed to get this done because it needed to get done. I think that we want to do all these things, but then we don't have a place for them on our schedule, or we don't sacrifice something else. So,
Right. Yeah, actually, I think the latest thing is this whole concept that's being debunked, this whole notion of, oh, we can balance everything, a balanced everything. I come at it from the perspective of there's seasons for everything. So it's all about, okay, for that short season, I knew that something, yes, had to be sacrificed, but I didn't have the illusion, oh, I can do everything all at once. We as women sometimes, feel like, oh, we're multitaskers. Yes, but where's our efficiency? So can we kind of just at least be more gentle with ourselves to say, hey, maybe during this period of time, I might not be able to, but that doesn't mean that I'm any less than. That's the key part that I really want women and moms to understand, is that you're not less than. Okay. You're still whole and you're awesome. So just do your due in the season that you're in.
that that is so important. Um, kind of have to pause. I have to pause to consider. No, I really, that touches home because sometimes it's like, for me, it's like if I
Mhm,
don't do all the alls,
mhm,
then I'm less than.
mhm.
And so what you said was um, very timely for me. So I I like to do these interviews because I feel kind of selfish because I get so much out of them. You've got your book,
Mhm.
and then what we've been kind of working on a little bit is that, and I'm super excited for you about, is your podcast. You're launching your podcast.
Yes, my baby.
What's
Um,
the name of the podcast? And
yes, the name of the podcast is The Mom Stops Here.
I love that.
And and I just finished putting the intro and outro together. I'm really excited, but even more so than that, I am so excited to have the opportunity to be that safe space for moms to actually pause, to consider. That's why it's called The Mom Stops Here. Moms to just pause to consider themselves, because we're doing for everybody else, but we don't take the time or have the time or feel like we have the time. We don't feel like we have the time to just consider ourselves. And so the whole point of the podcast is, I'm all about educating, equipping, and and encouraging moms through empowerment on how to be more gentle with themselves, understand themselves better, value themselves better, because in essence, how you treat yourself and what you think about yourself is going to impact how you interact with your children, in particular your daughter. And it's your daughters who are going to be raising, if they choose, raising the next generation, whether it's through mentorship of other young ladies or having children of their own. So that's what I'm all about. That's my passion, is to help the next generation by helping the moms now.
I love that, and I'm super excited about your podcast launch, the content itself. I love how you are systematically getting things prepared. And on my perspective, when I work with folks and they wanted, I mean, launching a podcast is not just a snap of a finger. Today it's, not here, and tomorrow it is here. There's a lot of prep work, just like your book. There's so many people that's like, oh, I want to write a book. Well, you should be able to do one in, little bit of time. No, there is a lot to, that's a big mountain of a project. And then I'm super proud of you on chunking things down and getting things lined out, figuring out all the pieces and asking the questions and stuff. But you're not just committed to this to say, "Oh, I'm just going to do a podcast just because it'll be a cool thing." You're in this for a long haul. Why on
Yes.
earth would you want to go to all this effort to not do this on a regular basis, and
Hmm.
produce your show on a regular basis so that, first of all, you're helping folks, but then individuals will be able to get to know you better. I mean, you can read a book, but then when you start hearing and getting the personality, you start to gravitate to a person that you listen to, then you think, hey, I already know this person before I know. And you feel comfortable talking about some really personal things. I mean, for me, way back going through my divorce, it's just kind of weird to go to a stranger to talk about my stuff. But I really didn't have anybody close to me that would talk to me in a manner as like, I didn't want to badmouth my ex-husband, you
Hmm.
know.
Hmm. Hmm.
It just stuff that happened and I just needed to get through the emotion. And I might want to vent about something and I don't want somebody that knows, like my ex-husband in
Hmm.
this case,
Hmm.
that would put him in a bad light.
Right.
He's not a terrible person. And the same thing, like if I blow up about something going on with my daughter, it's like nothing's wrong with my
Right.
but when you confide in people close, like friends and family,
Hmm.
I think sometimes that shapes their perception and maybe hang on to, well, they did this thing wrong
Right. Right.
and they're going to remember that for the rest of their life. And they don't. That's just sad.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I totally hear you on that because that's such a fine line,
mhm,
and hard to find that safe space. And that's what I want the podcast to be for moms and women, is a safe space where they can just come. One of my beverages of choice is herbal tea. Just sit down like we're just girlfriends, just hanging out, but we're just keeping it 100, keeping
yeah.
it real, knowing that there's no judgment, there are no expectations. It's just sharing heart to heart what's going on and being able to keep the confidence. I really just want folks to feel comfortable. They can know that this is going to be a safe space for them to just let their hair down. you
Now,
know. Yeah.
folks can work with you one-on-one through Zoom. Is
Yes,
that
they
what it
can. They
is?
can. Yes, as a mother-daughter relationship personal trainer, they can reach out to me through my website on my contact page,
Hmm.
asking for services that way, or they can email me. Uh,
Do you just work with moms or do you work with the daughters? Is it like a three-way type of conversation?
it
Well,
all.
I guess
And
if you only have one daughter, but
right,
you may have 10
right,
daughters. I don't
right,
know.
right. Seriously, no. It all depends on who that initial person is that contacts me,
Hmm.
and then I usually ask them a series of questions ahead of time just to see what might be the best approach. But I'll do either
Hmm.
one as whatever's appropriate for the situation. So yes, on Zoom, and depending on which portal, because the way we are in these days, because there are different portals that are out there,
Yeah.
I'll use a different portal depending on what folks need.
You're a professional speaker, so you
Hmm.
you go out and speak at places, but do you also have events or workshops or something in a group setting?
Yes, I'm actually developing. I did a beta run of a daughter empowerment seminar that I'm looking to put together again to offer to folks
Hmm.
online. The seminar that I did in beta form was an in-person seminar, but I'm looking to. It's actually called Daughter Empowering Women's Workshop. It's geared towards specifically equipping moms to help their tween and teen daughters navigate that whole transition and off to
Oh
college
boy,
kind of
that
thing.
was
So
a
that's
transition.
so yeah, we got a lot. I got a lot of good feedback and input from the first. People found it really helpful because I tend to want folks to leave with something tangible that they can then take with them. The way in which I structure the seminar, we have a didactic, i.e., educative part first. Then there's a lot of interaction because I love the interaction and sharing. And then there's homework, not to sound too much like a teacher. And then they have a week to go try out some stuff. And then we come back a second time and debrief. And then I give them some more stuff to actually then send them off. Yeah. So that's the structure of I'm calling it the DEW seminar, DEW, Daughter Empowering Women
I
Seminar.
love that. I
Mm-hmm.
love that.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about, well, in the
And the
show
speaking.
notes, we
Yeah.
have chapter 1 of your book,
Right.
and then we have
The
how to get
the
her to
keynote.
talk.
Yes.
Yes, that
You mentioned that.
PDF. And folks can go to your website. I'll have the links in the show notes for those free resources. But that puts you on a list so that we can follow you. Is that right?
Yes. In terms of the social media, they can follow me on Facebook. I'm listed as Dr. Michelle Deering, Dr. Deering, Dr. Michelle Deering on Facebook.
Good.
That's how. And then I'm not as active on Instagram, but if you want to, I have stuff that I'll post periodically on Instagram at Curative Connections is my Instagram
Good
name.
deal.
Yeah. And
Good
if they want to know my background professionally, they can always find me on LinkedIn.
Yes.
So yes.
Good. I'll have all of those links, but I encourage everybody to, especially if you're a mom, and especially if you have a daughter, or if you're a daughter, don't have a daughter yet, you do have a mom, I'm sure, then to sign up and follow you because you've got some great things happening. Your announcements will come on when the podcast,
Yes.
I'm going to be sharing it all over when you launch it.
In May, it's coming.
In May.
Yes.
Yeah. You're looking at Mother's Day, aren't you?
Yes, I was looking just around Mother's Day. So I don't know if I'm going to do it before Mother's Day or right after Mother's Day, but I have a Mother's Day theme to it, and we'll have some prizes and things like that for folks. So
awesome.
definitely.
I love it. I so appreciate you joining me today. This has been wonderful.
Thanks so much for having me, Gail. I really appreciate you too.
Wasn't that great? I am super excited about Dr. Deering's upcoming podcast, and word has it that it's going to be released and debut on Monday, May 11th. That's next Monday. So I know for a fact that you could probably subscribe to it right now. I'll have links in the show notes, and then you'll be ready to download the very first show. Thanks for joining me today. Until next time, have a fantastic week.